The following audio recording has been designed for learning purposes only. Do not share, distribute, or provide any type of copies, or this audio lesson will not be made available to you. Good luck with today's lesson.
He's hoping to be back next week. If you don't know what's going on, if he's doing it with a death in the family, then you're just doing it on a day-to-day basis. So today, though, he asked me to continue. We're talking about sound in motion pictures, and there's a PowerPoint about the history of the Oscars, which just happened on Sunday. Did anybody watch the Oscars? So they seem to be having better luck having multiple hosts instead of just one host. But the whole idea of the Oscars came up earlier than this. But on your sheet, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that that's related to it. Before you had sound pictures, you had, and he doesn't mention this exactly, but you had a guy named Edward Muybridge. And Edward Muybridge looks like this, and he decided, this is just background information, he would spell his name as weirdly as possible to make him seem more exotic. He had this long white beard, he kind of looks like someone from the Old Testament. He killed his wife's lover and was acquitted. And anyway, he was a photographer. And people were experimenting with the idea of could you do motion, let alone sound, but doing motion. So Muybridge was approached by a man, Leland Stanford, who founded Stanford University. He helped build the Transcontinental Railroad.
While being governor of California at the time.
That's right.
Which is
But that's okay. He was a successful businessman and a governor. But the point is that they wanted to know, is it possible? Here was the bet, $25,000 in the late 1890s. When a horse gallops, do all of its feet leave the ground, or is one foot always touching? And people would watch, and horses would gallop by, and you couldn't tell. It just moved too fast. So he put out a competition. If anybody can solve this riddle, I'll give you $25,000.
This is literally
So-
literally it's the ye old dress. Is it black and blue or white and gold? One hoof all.
Right, no, on this particular case though, Muybridge came up with a solution. And the solution is he would have individual cameras and strings, tripwires that went across. And a person would gallop a horse around at full gallop, go in front of the cameras and trip these wires. And the camera would catch it. That was his plan. 24 cameras. So this is what the picture looked like when it is going. And so what you see is one hoof on the ground, no hoofs on the ground. No hoofs on the ground, one hoof on the ground, one hoof, two hoofs, two hoofs, one hoof. So he proved conclusively with cameras simulating motion. And when you play these, when you put them together, and there was a machine, an early machine called a zoetrope, and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they take pictures around a loop, and you have a little candle inside, and you have a little slit, and when you spin it and look at the slit, it looks like motion. Have you ever seen a flip book where they have tiny little pictures and you flip them? Well, that's the same idea. So Muybridge suddenly gets famous, and this is a close-up picture for proof there too. So he comes up with what he calls the zoopraxiscope. And so people would go into theaters, and he was putting together a variety of images. He would turn the crank, there'd be a kerosene lamp, it would project through a lens on a screen, and it simulated motion. And so, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish that.
No, go right.
Professor Rice has notoriously terrible spelling. Is that S-C-O-P-E there, I assume?
It should be C-O-P-E. There
Okay,
shouldn't be
thanks.
an I in there. Yeah.
Just checking.
But you pronounce it like zoology. You don't do zoology, Z-O-O. So you pronounce all of the O's. So it's zoopraxiscope. And so you probably won't see this on a test or anything. I'll share this with Professor Rice, and if he wants to put it in where you can look at it on Canvas, you can. This is just background for his handout. Yes, Miss?
I'm sorry. if this is an odd question, but are we supposed to be writing all this down? 'Cause
No.
the notes are going really fast.
No, I'm giving you background for the piece of paper.
Oh, for this.
I'm trying to explain how
I
Thomas
thought we had like
Edison-
definitions to
No,
write
no, no.
down,
No,
so
no,
we
no.
don't have to write this down.
I'll tell you if you should write it down.
Thank you.
So Thomas Edison, in 1877, invents the phonograph. And this is the first time recorded speech has been, you can record speech and play it back. We take it for granted. But in 1877, it was earth-shattering. He recorded initially on tin foil. This is wax, which tended to work better. This is a little later. But he actually took his invention to New York City, took it to a group of scientists, and brought out his machine, and then turned the crank, and it said, "Hello, I'm the phonograph." And people were astounded. Play it again, and he would just play it. So then people would pay for anything. Speeches. I mean, think of all the famous people giving speeches that there are no recordings of because there was no way to record it. We have their words, but we don't know what their voices are like. What is Abraham Lincoln's voice like?
It's actually
Nobody
100%
knows.
you think.
Supposedly, that's what people say, but to actually hear it, we just take it for granted. So Edison is the first person to make practical the phonograph. This is a picture he had Matthew Brady, the famous Civil War photographer, take. He goes to Brady's studio and poses with his very first phonograph. This makes him internationally famous. As time goes by, the wax discs are not very sturdy, and neither is tinfoil. So they switch and they go to basically vinyl records. So the Grammys on TV is named after a gramophone. This is what a gramophone is. That's why the Grammy statue looks like this, because this is what modern records used to be played on. Turn the crank, it's got a big spring inside, turn it on, it spins at 78 RPMs, put the needle down on the record, out the horn comes the sound, and people were mesmerized. So now you could buy records of operas, you could buy records of speeches, you could buy records, popular music starts coming in. And so the phonograph leads to the gramophone, which leads to recorded sound. But these are even fancier versions. What they finally did is what other inventors have done, is it's a luxury item. You want to make it a tool. You want to make it so critical to your daily life you can't live without it. And so to convince people that, I mean, people today, let's say you go into a shop with high tech, or even kitchen, the new Instapots. And a lot of people say, I don't know where I put it in my kitchen. I don't really have any room. You got to force them. You got to say, oh no, you've got to find a place, buy something. You've got to have this. So how do you convince people to buy a phonograph? You make it look like fine furniture. So it's oak. It has a lid to hide it. Open it up, play it when you want to. They did the same thing with radio. They did the same thing with early televisions. We did the same thing with desktop computers. And Apple then made them really colorful and different shapes. And then laptops have come in, which are take up a lot less room, but you have to make them at least somewhat attractive. He starts teaming up with George Eastman of Eastman Kodak. Edison is the first person to invent what was called the kinetoscope, where you could watch a 2-minute movie. And so he invents 35 millimeter film. He's the one who decides 35 millimeter is the width I want to use. And he's the one who puts little holes in the side of it so that it will run through the machine. The little sprockets will pull the film through. So Edison comes up with all of that, but it's still silent. And so this is the kinetoscope. And it's a box. It's got an electric motor with a light bulb inside, and this is a viewer. So you have a viewer like this. You put in a nickel, and it runs. And so you'll have a 2-minute movie. And so you watch it through there, and it flashes and everything, but you watch it, and then sometimes they would do an entire boxing match. And so you have to start with the first kinetoscope and work your way through until you see all of them. But people would pay a nickel to do this. They would put a whole bunch of them in an arcade. They all charge a nickel. They're called a Nickelodeon, and that's where that term comes from, is from this early form of vending machine. But still no sound. And so this is all the film, 35 millimeter film, running over these loops. And these arcades became really popular. So back to Eastman. Eastman, who pioneered simple, easy-to-use cameras and ways to process the film, the two of them get together to make movies. And so they start doing that. And then here's an example of the Pete parlors. And this is where people would go, the Nickelodeons. And then Edison comes up with a film studio, and he starts making movies and selling them. And he makes movies, he sends people out, and they start filming everyday life. And people will watch these movies. And so have you seen any of these very, very early Edison movies? Have you seen any in this class?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have a train coming towards you, and people would duck because they literally thought the train was coming off the screen. And these are silent movies, and yet, people were they couldn't understand how that was going to work out. Then we get into the 1920s, you get the classic era of silent movies, and we're going to see a couple of clips of silent movies in this, leading to this, which we're going to see a clip of as well, is The Jazz Singer, which is the first talking movie. But what's ironic about it is it starts out as a silent movie. But once they get to the musical numbers, then it's live, it's filmed, and it has audio. They have a system called Vitaphone. And basically they figured out a way to take a recording and sync it with the movie. Now, one thing I just want to mention back with Edison and Muybridge, when Edison starts playing with individual movies, he realizes that if you play a movie at 24 frames a second, it tricks the brain into seeing motion. The brain does not see individual pictures anymore. It looks like motion. You do it slower. If you do 20 frames a second, it looks weird. If you do it faster, it looks too fast. But the thing you want to remember, when you watch a movie today, it's still 24 frames. If you take video, if you've ever edited video, it still counts as frames. So your brain isn't really seeing video or motion like we see now. I'm moving my hand. I'm really moving it. You can see me move it. But if I film me moving my hand, it's going to be 24 frames. Yeah?
We've already seen a clip of The Jazz Singer.
I'm sorry?
We've already seen a clip from The Jazz Singer.
You've seen the clip? Okay, if you've seen a clip, that's fine. But the thing to remember with The Jazz Singer is it starts out as a traditional silent movie. There's the black screen that comes up with the dialogue, and then there's scenes. Now something else is happening. But once it gets to the music, then they start playing this. And people are stunned. The other thing is that the classic song from here, Mammy, which is performed by Al Jolson, who was a Jewish nightclub singer, is done in blackface. And in 1927, nobody thought that was strange. At least no one in the white audiences who were watching this. And so the idea that it might be racially insensitive in 1927, it wasn't. This wasn't seen as a terrible thing to do. Now, if someone attempted to do this, and not like I'm doing a movie to make fun of racial issues at that time. This is not what they were doing. They were making an entertainment movie. And so today, I mean, judging what they did now, it's hard to view this film the same way, but you can't look at it that way. You have to try and look at it in 1927. And in 1927, Vitaphone linking singing with film was a revolutionary thing. Much like in 1939 with The Wizard of Oz, where it starts out in nice brown sepia tones, and when you see the credits at the beginning, it says, in Technicolor. Nobody really knew what Technicolor was at that time, but the movie is black and white, basically, until Dorothy gets to Oz. And then there's a great scene where she's in the house after it's landed, and she starts walking towards the door, and there's a hint of color. You can just barely see it. You're trying to figure out, where is she? What's she going to look at? Then when she steps out, it's in full color. Audiences were just blown away by that. Color
The
film
singing
had
stars.
existed, but most people never saw a color movie. And then in 1939, you also have Frankenstein, which was black and white and was a huge success. And you have Gone with the Wind, which is magnificent, full color. And so people then said, I want color movies. I want more and more color movies, please. And so the technology, which was expensive, started getting more affordable because people were willing to pay for it. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on this. So sound in the early 20th century, there's mentioning various people like DeForest is trying to use different kinds of things to try and make sound link up with the actual film. They're on videotape, for example. If you ever used videotape like an 8mm or high 8 or something like that, it actually puts a soundtrack. There's a magnetic strip on the film, and the audio goes there. And so you've got your pictures. This is the same with 16mm films they used to show in schools. There's your pictures, there's your soundtrack. Now, though, they got away from that, and they would put, instead of reading it with a magnet, they read it with a light. And I don't know how that happens, and it's described in here. So people now are using light to read the sound. But the bottom line is, there were whole famous people, Rudolph Valentino, other actors and actresses who looked great on stage. Rudolph Valentino was, I think, Italian or from Southern Europe. He was tall and dark. Women just swooned when they saw him. And he would do these movies that he played an Arab sheikh, and he would rescue women from the clutches of danger. And like I said, women just adored him. He was a heartthrob until talkies came in. And then they said, okay, Rudolph, now we're going to make the movie, but now we want you to talk. He had this horrible accent. He couldn't speak English very well. And people said, oh, Rudolph, you know. And so his career ended right there. And there were women who were also, you know, like America's Sweetheart or something. People loved seeing them on the silent screen. And the minute they started talking, they had a high nasally voice, or they had a Brooklyn accent, or they had something. And people said, I'm sorry, you know, character actors for you, we'll put you in the background. But now we've gotten to a point where you can have an odd name, you can have an odd accent, you might not even be incredibly attractive, but depending on the movie you're in, you can be a star, and people like you because you're different. But at the time, people's careers changed overnight once this new technology came in. So let's take a look at, first of all, Professor Rice wants us to look at the Academy Awards. So movies had been going on for quite a while, and I have to ask you, on this thing where we are not in normal playing, do you know how to make this full screen? I don't see a full screen icon on it. So
read mode, maybe.
Read? Or do I need to?
Drop down menu you were just in.
Okay.
Other one.
Oh, wait a minute. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
All right. So I don't know how that happened either. Okay. So Academy Awards, the beginning, early 1927, the same time, the same year. 1927, Lindbergh flies across the Atlantic solo. 1927, the jazz singer is introduced. 1927, there's an early discussion with Louis B. Mayer. This is the company that has MGM today, and has, sometimes you watch a movie and at the beginning there's a lion growling. That's Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and this is Mayer. So Louis B. Mayer is a famous studio executive, and so they start having a meeting at a dinner party. And then they invite 36 people to a banquet to discuss his proposal to found the International Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So they'll have an organization that will recognize excellence. And this is all going to be, this is going to be on Canvas, so you don't need to furiously write notes unless there's something extra you just want to remember. And so the founding members, just to give you an idea of who's on it: Louis B. Mayer, studio executive; Mary Pickford, America's sweetheart, a star of a lot of silent movies; Cecil B. DeMille, a very famous director; Douglas Fairbanks, a very famous actor who was in a lot of swashbuckling movies, but all silent films; Sid Grumman, another executive; Irving Thalberg, another executive; George Cohen, another executive; and Thomas Edison, who was given the first honorary membership because of his effort, his work in film.
Didn't Hollywood exist because they wanted to get the hell away from Edison?
No. They recognized Edison as he was a pioneer in this. So he's given an honorary membership. They're not expecting him to do a lot. And Edison in 1927, he was born in 1847, so he's not a young guy anymore, but they're recognizing him. They still give honorary Oscars and honorary awards to people. But this was the first thing. Can we recognize excellence in our movies? So the very first Academy Awards, May 16th, 1929. What happens later in 1929?
That was the crash.
Yeah, it's in October. This is May. October 29th, 1929, the stock market crashes and the Great Depression starts. But at this point, in 1929, we're still in the roaring 20s. Things seem to be going great. So you have the very first Academy Awards presentation, not filmed. You don't watch it on television. And it turns out the awards were not a surprise because they had announced the winners 3 months earlier. But they have the official black tie, evening gowns type of thing where people come and are given an award. So achievements for work were given from anything August 1st, 1927, July 1st, 1928. So it's basically a year, kind of like what we have now. So there were 15 categories. I think we have more categories now. So German actor Emil Jennings received Best Actor. He had been in a number of movies, but The Way of All Flesh is the one that we're going to see a clip of right now. Where did he go?
What were those?
I don't think this is where we want to be. Let's see.
Are these going to be on Canvas today?
They
Or?
will, believe he's going to put it on Canvas today.
Oh, so said he was out.
Did everybody get a chance to read the opening? Let me get that back for you again. All right, so he's portraying a man who was once famous, a devoted husband and father, who drops out of sight to save his family from the shame of his misdeeds. At this point, I don't know what his misdeeds are. This shows up. There's been several movies like this. So he was famous, devoted husband, but whether he had an affair or something has happened, he drops away so his family won't be scandalized. And then you find him now on a winter street scene, homeless, alone. Okay. I'm not sure how the film ends. How would you like it to end?
Probably not the way it actually ends.
So how would you, well, what do you think how do you think it might end?
I think based on pictures of the time sort of thing, it'll have a happy ending, but it definitely doesn't feel like it will. I don't know what that happy ending would be without seeing anything else of the film, but if this is, or if these are excerpts from its ending, it definitely shouldn't have a very happy ending.
There is another film that I saw, it's not this one, but it's similar. A man with a loving wife and family works for a company. He's going to go on a business trip. He's making some kind of a deal for his company, and he gets payment of some kind. And he's on the train coming home, and it's a train with sleeper cars, and it's a long trip. And so a woman, it starts talking to him in the dining car. Today, if you ride on Amtrak and go cross country, and you're on it longer than a few hours, you're staying overnight, they sit you in the dining car, and they have tables of 4, and they always sit you. They fill the table up. They don't let you sit by yourself. So you meet different people. So in this movie, he meets this attractive woman. They're drinking, they're getting on like crazy, and then she basically is seducing him. And somehow it comes out that he's made this big business deal. And so she gets him incredibly drunk. She takes him back. They go back to his room, and they give the impression that, she'll probably sleep with him. But he passes out, and when he wakes up, all the money's gone. And so now, when he goes home, he's facing all of this horrible kind of scandal. What is he going to do? So he doesn't go home. He gets off the train before they get home, and then nobody knows what happened to him. And so people assume he was robbed, he was killed, it was something. And so then it follows him, much like this same person. And then he comes back home, and he looks in the window. Oh, I know what happened, too. He was hit on the head and loses his memory. So that's partially what happens to him. He doesn't know who he is or where he is. Then later in life, many years have gone by, he comes back, and it's Christmas time. He's looking in the window. There's his kids grown up with grandkids. There's his wife. And you think, okay, knock on the door. And he can't do it, and he leaves. A lot of these early movies, you have to have a moral. And the moral is, you act badly, you will be punished, and you deserve it. And so you can't have a movie where the villain wins. You've got to have a movie where good triumphs over evil.
So no
somehow.
Infinity War, got it.
And so in this particular movie, like the movie I described, I'm assuming that he will not try to talk to his son. He will not try and make amends. He will continue to let them live and think the best of him, and he will disappear in the background. I could be wrong, but you see a lot of movies like that, where you have to have good has to win. Then you start getting movies, especially later, 50s, 60s, 70s, where you have rebels who are anti-society, anti-heroes, who end up winning. And a lot of people say that's okay. But in this time period, there were standards. So there were standards to the point where, even in the 50s, there was a famous movie called Anatomy of a Murder. And in that movie, a woman is raped, and then she ends up, the rape is not shown, because couldn't do that. She's on the stand, and in the movie, she actually uses the word panties, and people are just scandalized because swearing is not allowed in movies either. And
Goddamn
They do
James.
that in Shuffle Off to Buffalo, too.
yeah,
Panties and scandies.
right. So when Lucille Ball had her really famous TV show in the
anything by
50s,
Tarantino would make their heads explode.
oh yeah, but it's a different time. We've seen a lot of stuff in movies now that would have never been. They would have. I'm sure there are people in the 20s and the 30s who would have been willing to show that, but the film standards would not allow it. And on television, it was the same way. Lucille Ball gets pregnant in real life, and she has a very popular situation comedy. And so the executives, the first thing they do is say, this is horrible news. What were you thinking of? We weren't planning on having a child in this couple on TV. So as she starts to show, she's always hidden by stuff. The couch, she stands behind the couch, she's carrying a laundry basket, she's got a big bulky purse. And then finally, because she and her husband are producers, they say, let's just go with it. Women get pregnant all the time, have to deal with children, let's make it funny. And so finally, that's the first TV show where you really had someone who was pregnant, and then she starts doing all the jokes when she's 8, 9 months pregnant, and runs into things, and her back hurts, and she's wearing all this maternity clothing. And the ratings on the TV show went sky high because people thought, this is really funny, but they couldn't use the word pregnant. I mean, the idea that somehow our
Bunny
social...
oven, right?
Pardon me?
I Love Lucy came up with the term bunny oven to get around that, right?
They came up with ways to get around it, but eventually, now think of the stuff you hear on TV now. And, that would not have been allowed, not allowed then. There's all sorts of stuff here. All right, so this is one movie he wants you to see. So this was the best actor that went to the German guy. So let's get back to the PowerPoint. Not that PowerPoint. Then the next film is called, well, let me get back to his PowerPoint. Just a minute. Okay, so Emil Jennings received the Best Actor. You don't need to remember Emil Jennings, but this is the guy who was dressed up in the beard and everything, and was the... People thought that's the best performance that year. So then Janet Gaynor gets an award for Best Actress. She had been in a number of movies, but the movie that people really liked, she is a villain in Sunrise. And so this is the clip we're going to see next, is from Sunrise. And so Sunrise is a love story. And what I want to do is I'm going to show you a clip here, and then I found the trailer. And the trailer gives you a much better look at the whole movie. But I want you to think about how she's being portrayed in this film. So then you see her thinking her evil thoughts. Couldn't she get? And then watch what they do with the credits. And then, so he's obsessed. Leave all this behind. Come to the city. And now look at the effects they use here. They're in the front. Here she's painting the picture. Okay, so now we're going to watch the trailer. Now, let me just say one thing, that when you have some movies, and if the husband is a hard-working, nice guy, and his wife is just horrible, beats him, browbeating him all the time, there's times when you can think, yeah, just drown her. Start your life over again. So in this case, here's the seductress. Just like throughout history, women are often the seductors who use their feminine wiles to take nice, upstanding people and twist them to their evil ways. And so he's, at one point, when she mentions, drown your wife, what does he do? What's his reaction? He tries to strangle her. What does she do? Use her feminine wiles and starts kissing him, and it's like, okay, all right, maybe I could do that. So, but you know that doing something that horrific, it doesn't mean most people could not do something like that and then just be fine the next day. The guilt would get to you. So what I want you to see in this scene, this clip, is what his wife is like, what he would be leaving behind. So this is the trailer. And then another interesting scene here. And then this is a lot like theater, so you've really got to overuse your gestures.
So did he end up offing her?
She's inconvenient.
Yeah, that's the problem, I guess.
And nobody mentions the child.
Yeah, at all.
Ship her off to grandma.
And then this goes on so long, this scene. And then this looks like a flashback, maybe, before the evil lady shows up. Here's the wife. Look at the traffic, no rhyme or reason. Is he asking for forgiveness? And the evil seductress smoking, how terrible. Will he end up killing the other lady instead? How do they get on this big boat? A Song of Two Humans. Okay, so that, yes.
Were the soundtracks for these clips added in later?
Yeah,
or was
and
that...
this is a more modern trailer.
Right.
But remember, when you went to a silent movie, there was, depending on where you were, it might just be a piano in the front, and a person had watched the movie and would play the piano with the movie. Sometimes it would be a three-piece orchestra. And then sometimes, for big shows, there was a complete orchestra. Sometimes there were pipe organs, sometimes there were all these things. So, and the soundtrack, sometimes there was a soundtrack written. Mm-hmm. Think of Star Wars without John Williams, and you go somewhere and the movie shows up a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then instead of that orchestra, it's a piano. you know, and then you try and play it on the piano. But
Would
if
not
you're in a
have the
little
same
bitty
effect.
town, that would be what you would get.
Yeah.
But no,
If you're in Washington, work on the
that
piano.
went with the
I don't know
movies,
that.
where you had musicians, because otherwise it's just a silent movie. And you can get kind of caught up, but look at the difference in the clip we watched and the modern soundtrack. From the very beginning on the trailer, the soundtrack sets the tone, and you can make the music happy and light. And even today, if you watch TV, if you watch HBO, if you're watching everything else, the soundtracks, we take it for granted, but they're in there. And they're very carefully written to make you feel a certain way, tension, something like that. I watched a little bit of the Academy Awards, and every time they were showing, I can't remember what clip it was, the music was really dark. Maybe it was for 1917. And it was every time when people came up for awards, they played this music. And it was like, oh, yeah. But that just shows you the importance of sound.
Yeah, the soundtrack in the first clip made it sound almost like with the imagery, it made it feel like a fever dream almost.
Yeah. So then you get to Al Jolson, and then the jazz singer. We talked about this pioneering achievement. And interestingly, they say in some of the stuff I've read, there's a scene here between Al Jolson and his mother, and it's all ad-libbed. And people like that even better than the singing, because it was so natural and they'd never seen it in film. So he's just ad-libbing with the actress and say, I'm going to be really famous. And he says, so now I want you to close your eyes. Have you seen this scene? Did you show
Yeah,
it?
that's the scene.
Yeah, and then I'm going to steal something from you, and it's a kiss. And so when he sings Mammy at the end, even in blackface, she is in the front row with tears in her eyes. And so people think, he's singing to his mom. How wonderful is that? But that's what they were kind of testing, I think, to see if it would work. And it ended up working. And so then Charlie Chaplin, have you seen any Chaplin?
Yeah, we
Yeah, okay, so he receives an honorary Oscar for producing, directing, writing, and starring in The Circus. And then winners kept the name secret for the 1930 ceremony, and the awards were broadcast on radio. So now you want people to listen in, just like on the Oscars. Who's going to win? Do you have a favorite? Yeah.
Did he leave you any of the movie review sheets? Because I'm out of them.
No, I don't have any movie review sheets. I'm sorry.
Well, you don't have any review sheets. Aren't we supposed to review a movie every week?
I don't.
It's like 10 of them at the beginning of the time.
Yeah, he did not leave me any extras. How many are we short?
But are we still reviewing a movie today?
Yeah, does anybody have any extra sheets?
Oh.
Okay,
Oh, no,
can
I-
we share one over
Who does
here?
not have a movie review sheet?
Okay,
Thank you.
you bet. All right, so now this one, Oscar. It turns out the name Oscar, the idea for a statue, they decide they'll have a knight with a sword standing on top of a film can, like the movie would fit in. And so they came up with a very stylized version. They're made of bronze, plated with 24 karat gold. The name Oscar, it was designed by, now they're saying designed by MGM art director. There's actually a secretary who supposedly came up with the idea first and named it Oscar because when she saw the finished version, it looked like her uncle Oscar. Now that's one of those things that's not completely verified, but it sounds believable to me. Actors are technically not allowed to sell them. So as far as the value of the statuette, what it says, when you get it, you sign an agreement that says the actor shall not sell this. If they decide they don't want it, they will offer it back to the Academy for $1. So technically they're worth $1. However, Michael Jackson bought an Oscar from David Selnick's estate. David Selnick was the producer who produced Gone with the Wind and a bunch of other movies, and he paid $1.5 million
Technically,
for
Selleck
that
did not
statue.
sell it. Technically, Selleck did not sell it. So.
But the actor didn't. The person who got it didn't
Yeah,
sell
he
it.
didn't sell
The
it, so
estate
it-
sold
that
it.
doesn't
But
count.
technically, they're only worth $1. And during World War II, bronze and gold were needed for the war effort. So for 3 years, Oscars were plaster and then coated with gold paint.
That would be hilarious.
So, no, yeah, platinum wouldn't work. But so anyway, that's where Oscar comes from. So basically, then you have Is this the last one? Oh, that's it. That's the end of his little thing here. So today, the Oscars are highly coveted. For example, Brad Pitt won Best Supporting Actor. That means his price for being in a movie pretty much jumps 20%. Anybody who wins an Academy Award, it costs more. Like Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, any people who start
Legal finally
getting
costs
the-
more.
Yeah, so I mean, the ticket may not cost more, but their price to get them in a movie costs more. And it was to be expected. If they won in that category, they can. So anyway, the Oscars and the Grammys and the Golden Globes are an attempt, and other countries have them too, it's an attempt to recognize performance. And so, people, there's been classic examples. Marlon Brando received an Academy Award for The Godfather. And then he refused to accept it because he said it was just a meat show. So instead, he sent a Native American woman in full buckskin dress to accept on his behalf and then give a short speech about how Native Americans were being mistreated. So sometimes people would go that way. Jane Fonda, during the Vietnam War, was an activist. She ended up in Vietnam, in North Vietnam. People viewed her as a traitor. And so she comes back to Hollywood. Nobody will make a movie with her anymore. She's like almost blacklisted. But she ends up coming back, and then she's in a detective thriller called Clute, and with Donald Sutherland, who is President Snow in the Hunger Games, much
Don't you
younger.
mean Clute?
They were dating at the time, and she gets Best Actress. And then people are saying, what is she going to do now? So she was excellent in Clute. If you can find the movie, Clute is the name of the detective, Donald Sutherland. She plays a prostitute, and but she is excellent in the movie. And so
She better be. She won that
when she
award.
wins the award, when she comes on stage, she's dressed very nicely, and she gets the award. She makes a very nice acceptance speech, no politics, and she leaves. And it was interesting because at the awards, the last person, the person who did Best Picture, is Jane Fonda. So now with Frankie and Grace and Frankie on cable and everything, she's paid her dues. People like her again, and she's like 81 or something like that.
So good
Doesn't
for
look
81.
81. Pardon me?
So good for 81.
Oh,
Like I was like.
she is someone, they've had other people as presenters who were famous film stars, and their plastic surgery is so horrible. And Jane Fonda looks remarkable. So she had very good people doing her work, and she admits having work done. In fact, there's a great HBO special about Jane Fonda in 5 lessons, something like that you should watch, and it takes her through her entire life. And at the end, she says, yeah, I've had work done. She said, I wish I could just age naturally like Helen Mirren or Dame Judi Dench or Maggie Smith or some of the other famous actresses. She said, I couldn't do it. So,
Judi Dench has no
She
talent.
showed up at the Oscars this year with gray hair, and she looks good with that.
oh, what's a dead giveaway with people who are older is their hands. They can't do much with their hands. Their hands look old. But no, she looks remarkable. So good for her. All right. So this was the thing he wants you to see about the Oscars. And then what we want to look at is It Happened One Night. We're going to watch the actual movie. I'm going to take a break first. But what we want to do now is he's got a really short... how did we do that again? What's the different icons now? Don't want to add sticky notes. We'll just watch this. All right. So It Happened One Night, 1934. All right. This is before World War II. It's in the middle of the Depression. Franklin Roosevelt was elected in 1932. So this is 34. You've got Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. And this is a screwball comedy. And by screwball, it just means all sorts of ridiculous things happen. You have some kind of you have tension between 2 likable characters who generally start out not liking each other. And then they go through all of these crazy misadventures. You have all sorts of interesting characters along the way. And then they usually end up together at the end. This is considered one of the first screwball comedies. And what you see here is it sweeps the Oscars, which means all the biggest awards. Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, Best Writer, Best Picture. So I think, can't remember what won 10 Academy Awards, but they weren't the sweep. They won Best Costume, they won Best Cinematography, Best Editing, but they didn't get all of the biggies. And it's not usual to have in a movie Best Actor and Best Actress. Often it'll be one or the other. Or it'll be Best Picture but not Best Actors. Or it'll be Best Picture and a Best Actor but not Best Director. So anyway, screwball comedy.
Close to the stage if they're representing that many awards.
Yeah, that's right.
Walk over there.
Okay, so screwball comedies escape for the audiences during the Great Depression. They don't want, there's lots of depressing movies like we just saw. A lot of people, even now, don't want to see a depressing movie. So let's go see Bridesmaids, let's go see Wedding Crashers, let's go see something, Star Wars, let's see something that is like, it's not that. Common theme is problems of the wealthy, which is interesting during the Depression because a lot of people are not wealthy. They hear about rich people, so seeing movies where they're having trouble is a relief. Fast-paced dialogue, you've got to really pay attention because there's double meanings and there's puns and there's dry humor. Farcical situation, meaning a farce is something that is just totally unbelievable. So you'll have things like that. Female lead dominates the relationship, and the male lead, masculinity is challenged. That's kind of these are the tips. And if you see other screwball comedies, there's a really funny one, I don't know if you'll see it later, it's called What's Up, Doc? Barbra Streisand and Ryan O'Neal. And it's a really funny screwball comedy. It's a great movie. And I'm sure there's others. That's just one I can think of right now. There's a lot of them with Cary Grant, and he's in a lot of them, a leading actor, lots of drama, but he did lots of comedy. Arsenic and Old Lace is a really funny one as well. So you get in, Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant are in this other follow-up movie. This is 1938, so this is 4 years later. Also screwball, Bringing Up Baby. And so we're going to watch a clip from Bringing Up Baby. Anytime.
Minutes and earns the 5 times the national average. This is Bacon Rear Magic.
Sorry. I got 3 of them now.
Three times. Close all the one time. Go 3 times.
All right.
This one's paused, another one's still running.
Right. Which one is running?
The one that's not highlighted.
All right. Let's start again. Sorry.
I hope you realize that you've made a perfect fool of yourself in front of everyone. Have you finished?
Yes, I have.
Thank you very much.
You lied to me.
Yes, but just a little
Tell
bit.
me
I mean,
a
no.
story about
But it is a
leopard.
ridiculous story. I have
Where is the leopard?
In there.
I don't believe you.
But you must believe
I've been
me. That's
affected once more of your unbridled imagination.
What do you want?
Well, Mrs. Random invited me for dinner. Would you please find out that she still wants me?
She's hung up.
Oh, there. So am I. I am Major Horace Applegate of the Explorers.
What are you doing with that gun?
The gun is, I have been hunting leopards.
You've been hunting leopards,
Yes, I have been hunting leopards. Any luck? Well, not what I'm accustomed to, no. You see, I was slightly confused regarding that, but they told me that come on. Hey, let go.
Hello, Zelda.
Miss Susan, how in the world did you get here?
Influence.
You mean to tell me you want to wear that thing?
Look, of course I don't want to wear this thing. All I want to do is get married.
So not a bit. I absolutely put my foot. Oh, but honey, you have to understand that. Please let me explain. Now, you want to marry a man.
Quiet!
Oh, but David, please.
Can we watch that?
No, I don't have that. But what you see as far as a farce is, yes, here is a rich woman and she has a leopard. So bringing up baby is the
That's
leopard.
not that far.
And so all of these scenes start happening, and then those other actors they show. This would be like taking comedy actors we all like, and then here's a movie, and in the trailer, you'd say, wait, James Corden from Late Late is on, and you mean Jim Carrey is in it, and all these people I like, they're going to be in this movie, and so then you see this patter. You know, I'm hunting leopards, and they're in a city. Any luck? You know, well, not that I'm used to. And it's just they're acting as if everything they're doing makes perfect sense, and we're watching and just saying these rich people are just absolutely crazy. But that is and speaking of this, is there really Capital One coffee shops? Is it just made up? Have you ever seen one where you can go in? It looks like a Starbucks, and you can open a checking account and get a loan. Have you ever seen one? They talk about it. Our banks are old-fashioned. They're like frozen in time. So you can go to one of those, or you can come to a Capital One cafe.
A better description before it's frozen time would either be people walking in it just like frozen mid-walk, or it looks like it's in the 1920s.
Right, but
that would be
It's
better.
offered at some banks, your money almost feels like it's frozen.
Or
With Capital One, you
Looks
can
like
open
a-
a new savings account in about 5 minutes and earn 5 times the national average. This is banking
have
reimagined.
you seen a bank that looks like that? That's all I'm saying. I'm beginning to think
Probably newer banks are going
it has nothing to do with real life. It's not happening here. But anyway.
They're probably not going to spend the money like renovating old ones. They're probably like newer built Capital One banks are going to look like that. But like, if literally, unless like your local Capital One gets hit by a meteorite, it's not going to look like that for a while.
Right. So anyway, the whole thing with Capital One, no one will ask you about that. I'm just asking. It's kind
But that should be on the test.
Do you take a break before you watch the movie?
Maybe not that one.
Why don't you take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back, and then I'll get the movie all queued up and we're ready to go.
Oh, what movie are we watching?
We're watching It Happened One Night. So we're going to watch and this one, It Happened One Night, remember what I said about the film standards? So you have 2 single people, they're traveling, and what's funny about the movie is then they're going to end up spending the night sharing a room. And so what will happen is that creates a tension. What are we going to do about that? How am I going to keep this hunk of a guy from coming towards me? And the guy might say, how am I going to keep the girl from staying on her side? So they put up a sheet to divide the room in half. And they're going to sleep on either side of the sheet. And it's described as the walls of Jericho. Now, the thing to remember is now, if you went to a movie and they describe the walls of Jericho, you may not know what that means.
Jericho was the first city to have walls.
People in the 1920s, many people went to church, they read the Bible. In the walls of Jericho, the Hebrews are coming into a land, there's this fortress, and they have to conquer the people who live in Jericho. And it's hopeless. How are they going to breach the walls? And so God tells, I can't remember which prophet it is,
I think it's like
that they march. What they're supposed to do is march around the city, I think 7 times, And at the end of the 7 times, they take out their horns that they use made of ram horns, because they're shepherds. And they will blow the horns. And when they blow the horns, God destroys the city and the walls came tumbling down. So when you have a comedy and there's the walls of Jericho mentioned, everybody knows what they're talking about. It would be like if we say the Garden of Eden, or if we're talking about the Noah and the flood. So there's some of those stories that most people have heard. But in this time period, in the 30s, you could count on a majority of Americans were church-going, Bible reading, and they knew the stories. They know the reference. And today, church membership is way down. People probably aren't studying the Bible as much. But it's a social reference that people understood in this movie, and in relationship to 2 attractive singles and the scourge of, well, you can't have sex if you're not married. This is the idea. Now in a modern movie, that would not be the issue. But this, again, there's a moral equivalent here. You can't be watching. Look what happened. probably in that other movie, Sunset or Sunrise. What do you think happens to the villain woman? Does she get the guy? Do you think he kills his wife? And so she probably is struck by lightning, drowns herself, something will happen, but not at his hands, or it'll be an accident, so he doesn't go to prison. That's how they'll probably write the story, because good has to prevail over evil. And then she gets the Academy Award because she's just so evil. And you've probably seen people, like Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. The Joker is not a likable character. Heath Ledger's Joker was incredible in Batman. If they got an Academy Award, you'd say, they deserve it. They're such a good actor. But what creepy characters they created. So she got an Academy Award for good acting. But that doesn't mean, they approve of her character. And she probably wouldn't either. Okay, take your 10-minute break. And so get back at 10 till, and then we'll watch the movie. Or do you need a break? Did you take it while I was talking? Do you just want me to start the movie? Do you take a break normally or not? Anybody need a break?
Well, some people left.
Some people left. Okay, we'll wait for them to come back. So if you need to get up and stretch a little bit, we can do that. I'll get this queued up. Young Frankenstein would be another screwball comedy.
I'm sure you agree, it's too many times.
Is everybody back? I realized I forgot there was some more on this we need to watch. So another screwball comedy is this movie called My Man Godfrey. And so you have a woman, Carol Lombard, who was a very popular actress. She was married to Clark Gable. During World War II, she goes on a war bond drive where you would have, to finance the war, you would buy bonds. So you'd buy a bond like a $20 bond, and the money goes to the government to pay for the war effort. And at the end of the war, you can turn in your bond and get paid back with interest. So they would have all of these drives throughout the country. She is sent, because she's a famous actress, on a tour to collect war bonds. She and Clark Gable are happily married, and the plane crashes and she's killed. So it was, a real tragedy. So in this movie, she's a rich person looking for a homeless person, kind of like My Fair Lady, that she can turn into a gentleman. And so this is, William Powell was another famous actor at the time. So we'll see this clip from My Man Godfrey.
This is the movie we're watching.
Are all these people hunters?
Oh, no, we work in groups. Some are hunters and some are receivers.
Sounds like a bankruptcy proceeding.
I never thought of that.
Who receives me?
Oh, I have to take you to the committee, but you don't mind, do you?
I can hardly wait.
Wait a minute. What are you there? Oh, this is Godfrey. Is Cornelia back yet? I haven't seen Cornelia. Where did you find him? Isn't that marvelous? We got me out of here. Mr. Godfrey!
Forgotten man, he said, oh, ladies and gentlemen, please, quiet. Miss Bullock has a forgotten man. Do you mind stepping up on the platform, please?
Let's get right up on the platform, Godfrey.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Fire away.
What is your address?
City Dump 32, East River, Sutton Place.
Rather fashionable over there, isn't it?
In spots.
Is that your permanent address?
Well, the permanency is rather questionable. You see, the place is being rapidly filled in.
Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
If it isn't too personal.
Are those whiskers your own?
No one else has claimed them.
I must ask that question because one group tried to fool the committee the early part of the evening by putting false whiskers on one of their own group. May I?
No, it's a pleasure.
One more question. Are you wanted by the police?
That's just the trouble. Nobody wants me.
Oh, very good answer.
Splendid, Godfrey. You mean nobody wants him? Nobody at all?
Nobody.
Oh, that's too bad.
Well, on the contrary, I sometimes find it a great advantage.
The committee is satisfied. Miss Irene Bullock brings 20 points for a forgotten man and 50 points extra for bringing in the first part.
Oh, bravo!
Is that a scavenger hunt?
I know, isn't that amazing? So let me just stop this a minute. And I wanted to see if we could get into, the sound doesn't seem very high, so let me get that. So let's get back to PowerPoint. So My Man Godfrey, you see in the little picture in the upper right, she ends up, he sounds educated, he sounds clever already, but she is trying to convert him into someone who is presentable in society. And there's probably a story about why he's a forgotten man, and what exactly that means, we don't really know at this point. No, all the sound looks like it's on. Okay. So, My Man Godfrey, 1936. So that's 2 years after Bringing Up Baby. Then Clark Gable. See when he lived. Clark Gable starts on Broadway, and then he is under contract with MGM. So people worked for networks. If his name, I can't remember his real name is Clark Gable or not, but there's Renee Zellweger got an Academy Award for her portrayal as Judy Garland later in life. Judy Garland's real name was Frances Gump, and so, or Gunn, Frances Gunn, something like that. When she was hired by the studio, they said, we got to change your name. And so she became Judy Garland. Cary Grant, that wasn't his real name. Kirk Douglas, it wasn't his real name. Tony Curtis, whose daughter is Jamie Lee Curtis, who's now in Knives Out. She was in Halloween. She was in all sorts of movies. Anyway, his name was Bernard Schwartz, and that wasn't going to be a movie star's name. So you had to have something else. So he's with MGM, and when you get hired by a studio, they basically own you. So he's cast as rough characters, he's cast as gangsters, opposed some of the biggest female stars like Joan Crawford, Greta Garbo, Norma Shearer, Big Ben, I don't know who, I can't picture her right now. Then Gable complained to Louis Mayer about the roles he's getting. He's just getting the same thing, he's typecast. And so what does Mayer do? He loans him to another studio to teach him discipline. So be lucky you're working and stop complaining. So Gable played Peter Warren, and he and director Frank Capra had a great time making It Happened One Night. Frank Capra is the guy who did a lot of feel-good movies, including It's a Wonderful Life, which we watch at Christmas time and was a flop when it was released. But Frank Capra is known for these feel-good, funny movies with neat characters. And so now Frank Capra gets a lot of praise for what he was doing, but at the time, he wasn't. Claudette Colbert began her career in Broadway. She's with Paramount. She's at a different studio. But she was a star that you would see in lots of movies. She's given a wide range of roles. And then Gable gets in Gone with the Wind. 1939, the same year, as I mentioned, as Wizard of Oz, Frankenstein. He received 8 awards, but not all in the top categories. He played opposite Vivian Leigh. The search for an actress to play Scarlett. They tried Katharine Hepburn. They tried all sorts of people. Katharine Hepburn was the one in Bringing Up Baby. And she's English. And she was dating Laurence Olivier, who was the most famous Shakespearean actor. And so she had to do her southern drawl, and but she's English. But then they seemed like the perfect match. So have you done anything with Gone with the Wind before? All right, we're going to watch a clip. The movie is 4 hours long and was a box office sensation when it came out.
To start something priceless.
Click off some of the...
Tap with your MasterCard. Every day is a chance to start something priceless.
The Wind has captured the imagination and acclaim of the entire world. The screen has never known a love story to compare with this. When Rhett Butler meets Scarlett O'Hara.
I love you more than I've ever loved any woman. And I've waited longer for you than I've ever waited for any woman.
Now you love me.
Kiss me once.
Can't we ever forget that day at 12 Oaks?
Do you think I could ever forget it if you've forgotten it? Could you honestly say you don't love me?
No, I don't love you.
It's a lie.
Well, even if it is a lie, do you think I'd go off and leave Melanie and the baby?
I'm not cornered. You'll never corner me, Rhett Butler, or frighten me. You've lived in dirt so long you can't understand anything else. and you're jealous of something you can't understand. Good night.
It's not that easy, Scarlett. You turned me out while you chased Ashley Wilkes, while you dreamed of Ashley Wilkes. This is one night you're not turning me out.
A love affair you'll remember as long as you live, filled with all the fire and fury of the times in which it happened. Gone with the Wind. First picture to win 10 Academy Awards. The most honored, the most talked about motion picture in all film history.
So has anybody seen Gone with the Wind? You have? All right. It's a classic movie. It's one of those you should watch. And again, the time when it was filmed compared to now, there are stereotypes that are not easy to watch. So Claudette Colbert, when we get back to the movie, was already a big star. She was unhappy that she was loaned to Columbia Studios. So she behaved very much like the heroine she's playing to Gable and Capra throughout the filming. So apparently, even off-screen, she was kind of snooty, just like her character's supposed to be. I have heard people who, like for example, there was a classic movie in the 50s, and there's an actor who is basically a hood, and he's in a high school, and this teacher who's the hero is trying to reach out to inner city kids, and this guy will have nothing to do with it. And so to get in character, he acted that way the entire time. And the main actor said he would be getting lunch, and the guy would be sitting just staring at him like, if I get you alone, I'm beating you up. The entire movie production, so for him to stay in character, that's what he had to do.
That's method acting, not
method acting. All right, people said if you're going to play a character, you have to do it. Dustin Hoffman, after The Graduate, was in a movie with Laurence Olivier called The Marathon Man, and in a scene, he's supposed to have not slept for 3 days. So Laurence Olivier said, okay, I'm just going to think about what that would be like, and I'll just act like I'm really tired. Dustin Hoffman stayed up for 3 days so that when he came to work, he was in character. So method acting is different than, not everybody agrees with it. So 2 other motion pictures have won in all 5 categories, at least so far. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson in 1975, Silence of the Lambs with Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster in 1991. So those 5 categories: Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, Best Picture, Best Writer. So there hasn't been another one yet. So the fact that a screwball comedy won that's kind of an interesting thing. So let's get to the screwball comedy. Yeah, and if you want to move so you're closer to the screen, you can too. Now this movie is just 7 years after Jazz Singer, and it's full synchronized soundtrack. So it just shows you how quick the technology evolved.
hell, that's not Captain Real Dutch Island, is it?
I'm
No,
just
no.
starting.
I
How
don't-
long
I
has this
don't
been
know.
going on? You haven't had a thing yesterday or
I feel like
today?
that's
Send the
really
meals
good.
up to her regularly? Yes, sir. But why don't you jam it down her throat? Well, it's not as simple as all that, Mr. Allen. I'll talk to her myself. Have some food brought up to her. Yes, sir.
I'm not going to eat a thing until you let me off this boat.
Oh, come now, Ellie. You know I'll have my way.
Not this time, you won't. I'm already married to him.
But you're never going to live under the same roof with him. Now, I'll see to that.
Can't you get it through your head that King Wesley and I are married? Definitely, legally, actually married. It's over, it's finished, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm over 21 and so is he.
Would it interest you to know that while you've been on board, I've been making arrangements to have your marriage annulled?
But no. I'll have something to say about that, and so will King.
I expect him to. Ah, the victuals. Come in, come in.
I thought I told you not to bring any food in here.
Now, wait a minute. This isn't for you. Put it right down here.
Smart, aren't you? So subtle.
Strategy, my dear.
Suppose it was strategy sending those guerrillas down to drag me away from that justice of the peace. Your idea of strategy is to use a lead pipe.
I've won a lot of arguments with the lead pipe.
Outside of the fact that you don't like him, you haven't done a thing against him.
He's a fake, Ellie.
He's one of the best flyers in the country.
No good and you know it. You married him only because I told you not to.
You've been telling me what not to do ever since I can remember.
That's because you've always been a stubborn idiot.
I come from a long line of stubborn idiots.
But don't shout so. You may work up an appetite.
I'll shout if I want to. I'll scream if I want to.
All right, scream.
If you don't let me off this boat, I'll break every piece of furniture in this room.
Here. Have a nice piece of juicy steak. You don't have to eat it. Just smell it. It's a poem. Ellie! 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 Lower the boat! Lower the boat! Catch her! Catch her! Come on, miss! Come on! She got away from us, sir. Of course she got away. She's too smart for you. Send a wireless to the Lovington Detective Agency. Daughter escaped again. Watch all roads, airports, and railway stations in Miami.
Howard, Miami, Havana, Jacksonville, New York, Philadelphia.
We're wasting our time. Can you imagine Ellie Andrews riding on a bus?
I told you all met was a boat.
Ticket to New York, Here's your ticket. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, what's going on here? I'd like to use that phone. Boy, this is history in the making. What? There's a man biting a dog in. Attaboy, you boy. I can't stand this any longer.
And a pig's eye, you will. Hey, listen, monkey face, when you fired me, you fired the best news hound, you're a filthy scandal she'd ever had.
Say, listen, you wouldn't know a newspaper story if it reached up and kicked you in the pants. Yeah, sure. I got all your copy. Why didn't you tell me you were going to write it in Greek? I'd start a new department.
That was free verse, you gas house palooka.
What the dickens was free about it? It cost this paper a gob of dough, and I'm here to tell you it's not going to cost us any more.
Gordon,
Huh?
did you know he reversed the charge on that call?
What? Why, you... Say, listen, you. When you get back to New York, you keep far away from this office. You're fired. You don't work here anymore, and you never will.
Oh, so you're changing your tune, eh? You're a little late with your apologies. I wouldn't go back to work for you if you begged me on your hands and knees. And I hope this will be a lesson to you.
Oh, boy, yes, did we tell that baby?
Give me any more of his lip, huh?
You telling me, Pete?
I guess he knows now how I feel about his job.
I'll bet he does, too.
Is my chariot ready?
Oh, your chariot awaiteth without it, almighty king. I am ready back to the king. On, sire. Wait for the king. May wait for the king. Long live the king. May wait for the king. And the king. Make way for the king. Philadelphia, all Lord, now the king back. comfortable with a pleasant filler. Filler, sir? You did. 12 miles is a long trip. Make yourself comfortable with a pleasant filler. Hey, driver. You know, if you'll be good enough to move those newspapers, I'll have a seat.
Hey, wait a minute! What do you think you're doing?
Huh?
The papers! What's the idea of throwing them out?
Oh, the papers? Yeah, it's a long story, my friend. I never did like the idea of sitting on newspapers. I did it once and all the headlines came over my white pants. On the level, it actually happened. Nobody bought a paper that day. They just followed me around over town and read the news over the seat of my pants.
Oh, fresh guy, huh? What you need's a good sock on the nose.
Now listen, partner. You may not like my nose, but I do. I always wear it out in the open, where if anybody wants to take a sock at it, they can do it.
Oh, yeah?
Now that's a brilliant answer. Why didn't I think of it? Our conversation could have been over long ago.
Oh, yeah?
If you keep that up, we're not going to get anywhere.
Oh, yeah?
You got me. Yeah.
Excuse me, lady, but that upon which you sit is mine.
I beg your pardon?
Now listen, I put up a stiff fight for that seat, so if it's just the same to you, scram.
Driver, are these seats reserved?
No, first come, first serve.
Thank you.
Hey, driver. These seats accommodate 2 people, don't they?
Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Thank you. Move over.
This is a maybe they do.
If you'd asked me real nice, I might put that bag up there for you.
Next time you drop in, bring your folks. Rest station, 15 minutes. We'll only be here 15 minutes. Red hot coffee. Right around there, boy, going up there. Yes, sir, red hot coffee. Hot dog. Won't you please enjoy the ride unless you want to.
He got away. I suddenly found myself in the middle of brush and not a sign of the skunk.
I don't know what you're raving about, young man. And furthermore, I'm not interested. Thank you.
Well, maybe you'll be interested to know your bag's gone.
Oh, my heavens, it's gone.
I knew you'd catch on eventually.
Oh. Well, what am I going to do now?
Don't tell me your ticket was in it.
No, got that all right, but not my money. All I have here is $4.
All right, more money when you get to Jacksonville.
No, I can't. Yes, I guess I will.
I'll tell the driver about your bag.
No, thank you. I'd rather you didn't.
Don't be a fool. You've lost your bag. The company ought to make good. What's your name?
I don't want it reported.
Well, that's ridiculous. The company ought to take care of it.
Here, can you understand English? Would you please keep out of my affairs? I want to be left alone.
Why, you ungrateful brat.
Forward! All aboard! Forward! Jacksonville, 30 minutes for breakfast, folks. Only 30 minutes for breakfast now. Just 30 minutes, that's all, no more. 30 minutes for breakfast, folks, that's all. Just 30 minutes for breakfast, that's all.
I'm so sorry. Silly, isn't it? Where everybody's going. Oh, thank you very, very much. We're in Jacksonville, aren't we?
Yeah.
That was foolish of me. Well, why didn't you shove me away?
Oh, I didn't wake you up. You look kind of pretty asleep. How about some breakfast?
Oh, no, thank you. No, I'm going to the Windsor Hotel.
Windsor? You'll never make it in time. We leave in half an hour.
Oh, no. No, they'll wait for me. Driver, I'm going to be a few minutes late. Be sure to wait for me.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Where's the bus from New York?
Why, about 20 minutes ago.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I was on that bus. I told them to wait.
I'm sorry, miss, but it's gone. Good morning. Remember me? I'm the fellow you slept on last night.
Seems to me I've already thanked you for that. What time's the next bus?
8 o'clock tonight.
8 o'clock? That's 12 hours.
Sorry, miss.
What's the matter? Wouldn't the old meanies wait for you?
What are you so excited about? You missed it too.
Yeah, I missed it too.
Don't tell me you did it on my account. I hope you haven't any idea that what happened last night is... Now look here, young man. You needn't concern yourself about me. I can take care of myself.
You're doing a pretty sloppy job of it. Here's your ticket.
My ticket?
I found it on the seat.
Thank you. It must have fallen out of my purse.
You'll never get away with it, Miss Andrews.
What are you talking about?
I said you'd never get away with it. Your father will stop you before you get halfway to New York.
You must have me confused with someone else.
Quit kidding. It's all over the front page. You know, I've always been curious to know what kind of a girl would marry a front-page aviator like King Wesley. Take my advice. Grab the next bus back to Miami. That guy's a phony.
I didn't ask for your advice.
That's right. You didn't.
Wait, you're not going to notify my father, are you?
What for?
You probably could get some money out of him.
I never thought of it.
If you promise not to do it, I'll pay you. I'll pay you as much as you will. You won't gain anything by giving me away as long as I'm willing to make it worth your while. I've got to get to New York without being stopped. It's terribly important to me. I pay you now, only the only thing I had when I jumped off the yacht was a wristwatch, and I had to pawn that to get these clothes. But I'll give you my address, and you can get in touch with me the minute you get to New York.
Never mind. You know I had you pegged right from the jump. It's a spoiled brat of a rich father. The only way you get anything is to buy it, isn't it? You're in a jam, and all you can think of is your money. It never fails, does it? Ever hear the word humility? No, you wouldn't. I guess it never occurred to you to just say, please, mister, I'm in trouble. Will you help me? No. That'd bring you down off your high horse for a minute. But let me tell you something. Maybe it'll take a load off your mind. You don't have to worry about me. I'm not interested in your money or your profit. You, King Wesley, your father, you're all a lot of hooey to me. You send telegrams here?
I'm just fine, thanks. And how are you? To Joe Gordon, in care of New York Mail, New York. Am I laughing? The biggest scoop of the year just dropped in my lap. I know where Ellen Andrews is. No. Do you really?
Go on, send a telegram.
How would you like to have the story? You big tub of
Mush.
Tub of mush. Well, try and get it. What I said about never writing another line for you still goes. Are you burning? Peter Horn. That'll be $2.60.
Send a collect.
Collect?
Collect.
Bus leaving for Savannah, Charleston, Columbia, Greensboro, Richmond, Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, Savannah, Charleston, Columbia, Greensboro, Richmond, Washington,
Shapley. Might as well get acquainted. It's going to be a long trip. Gets tiresome later on, especially for somebody like you. You look like you've got class. Yes, sir. And the Captain K. And I'm the guy that knows class when he sees it. Believe you me. Ask any of the boys. They'll tell you. Shapley sure knows how to pick 'em. Yes, sir. Shapley's the name, and that's the way I like 'em. You made no mistake sitting next to me. Just between us, the kind of mugs you meet on a hop like this ain't nothing to write home with the wife about. You gotta be awful careful who you hit it up with, is what I always say, and you can't be too particular neither. What's the matter, sister? You ain't saying much.
Seems to me you're doing excellently without any assistance.
That's pretty good. Seems to me you're doing excellently without any assistance. Well, shut my big nasty mouth. Looks like you're one up on me. You know, there's nothing I like better than to meet a high-class mama that can snap them back at you. Because the colder they are, the hotter they get. That's what I always say. Yes, sir. When a cold mama gets hot, boy, how she sizzles. Now, you're just like that. Believe me, sister, I could go for you in a big way. Fun on the side, Shapley, they call me. With accent on the fun, believe you me.
Believe you me, you bore me to distraction.
Looks like you're two up on me now.
Dave.
Huh?
There's a seat over there for you.
What's the idea?
I'd like to sit next to my wife, if you don't mind.
Your wife?
Yeah. Come on.
Oh, yeah, sure. Excuse me, you know. I was just, sure, excuse me, I was just trying to make things pleasant, you see. Excuse me, I mean anything, Doc.
No offense, Doc. No.
If you promise not to snap my head off, I'd like to thank you.
Forget it. I didn't do it for you. The voice gets on my nerves. What'd you do all day?
Ran in and out of doorways, trying to keep out the rain.
Clothes are all wet. Here. You're as helpless as a baby.
Thank you.
Here you are, folks. Cigars, cigarettes, chewing gum, candy, magazine.
Here, boy.
Yes, ma'am.
A box of chocolates, please.
Never mind, son. She doesn't want it.
Oh, but the lady says...
Of course I do.
Eat it. Eat it.
Oh, you got your nerve. Here, boy.
$1.60. You had $4 last night. How do you expect to get to New York at the rate you're going?
That's none of your business.
You're on a budget from now on.
But just a minute.
Shut up.
Here, come.
What's the matter, officer? Ah, bridge washout. Looks like we can't get through the morning. If any of you passengers want a place to sleep, you'll find an auto camp up yonder, Pete. Yeah, where? Yeah, right over there. See those lights? Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks, auto camp. All right, thanks. Hey, Brett.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Come on, we're stopping here for the night. Hey! Come on, we're all set!
Good evening. Hope you and your husband rest comfortable.
Come on, what are you going to do, stay out there all night?
Darn clever, these Armenians.
Yeah, it's a gift.
I just had the unpleasant sensation of hearing you referred to as my husband.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to tell you about that. I registered as Mr. and Mrs.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what am I expected to do? Leap for joy?
I kind of half expected you to thank me.
Your ego is absolutely colossal.
Yeah, but not bad. How's yours?
You know, compared to you, my friend Shapley's an amateur. Just whatever gave you any idea I'd stand for this.
Hey, now, wait a minute. Let's get this straightened out right now. If you're nursing any silly notion that I'm interested in you, forget it. You're just a headline to me.
A headline? You're not a newspaper man, are you?
Chalk up one for your side. Now listen. You want to get to King Wesley, don't you? All right, I'm here to help you. What I want is your story. Exclusive. That day-to-day account. All about your mad flight to happiness. I need that story. Just between you and me, I've got to have it.
Well, isn't that just too cute? There's a brain behind that face of yours, isn't there? You've got everything nicely figured out for yourself, including this.
This? Well, that's a matter of simple mathematics. These cabins cost $2 a night. And I'm very sorry to inform you, wifey dear, that the family purse won't stand for our having separate establishments.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You've been very kind.
It's all right with me. Go on out in the storm. But I'm going to follow you, see? Yeah. And if you get tough, I'll just have to turn you over to your old man. Right now. Savvy? Now that's my whole plot in a nutshell. A simple story for simple people. If you think yourself, I'll see that you get to King Wesley. If not, I'll just have to spill the beans to Papa. Now, which of these beds do you prefer? This one? All right.
That, I suppose, makes everything quite all right.
Well, this? Well, I like privacy when I retire. Yes, I'm very delicate in that respect. Prying eyes annoy me. Behold the walls of Jericho. Maybe not as thick as the ones that Joshua blew down with his trumpet, but a lot safer. See, I have no trumpet. Now, just to show you my heart's in the right place, I'll give you my best pair of pajamas. Do you mind joining the Israelites? You don't want to join the Israelites? All right. Perhaps you're interested in how a man undresses. You know, it's a funny thing about that. Quite a study in psychology. No two men do it alike. You know, I once knew a man who kept his hat on until he was completely undressed. Yeah, now he made a picture. Years later, his secret came out. He wore a toupee. Yeah. You know, I have a method all my own. If you'll notice, the coat came first, then the tie, then the shirt. Now, according to Hoyle, after that, the pants should be next. Here's where I'm different. I go for the shoes next. First the right, then the left. After that, it's every man for himself.
Yeah, that was a gas book.
All the women are family
That's trust.
Still with me, Brett? Ah, don't be a sucker. Good night's rest will do you a lot of good. Besides, you got nothing to worry about. The walls of Jericho will protect you from the big bad wolf.
The weirdest thing you think I've ever seen.
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? The big bad wolf, the big bad wolf. She's afraid of the big bad wolf. Tra-la-la-la-la.
Would you mind, please, putting out the light?
No, not at all. Those things off the walls of Jericho.
Oh, excuse me.
that?
Who are you?
Who, me? I'm the whippoorwill that cries in the night. I'm the soft morning breeze that caresses your lovely face.
I am Darkwing Duck.
You've got a name, haven't you?
Yeah, I got a name. Peter Warren.
Peter Warren. I don't like it.
Don't let it bother you. You're giving it back to me in the morning.
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Warren.
The pleasure is all mine, Mrs. Warren.
Another message, sir. Well, what is it? What is it? What is it?
It's from Charleston, Mr. Andrews. Checking every northbound train. Also assigned 20 operatives to watch main highways. No sign of your daughter yet. Will continue to do everything possible. Signed, Livingston Detective Agency, Charleston.
Yes, just the same as all the others. Yes, sir. I thought I made it clear I was in a hurry to get to New York. What are we crawling for? All right, step on it. Yes, sir.
Oh, I hope she's all right, sir.
All right, though. Of course she's all right. What could happen to her?
Nothing, sir.
Well, then shut up about it.
Hello? Hey, mister. Oh, hello?
What's the matter? You not up yet?
What time is it?
8 o'clock. Here.
Oh, it's a toothbrush, thanks. My dress, you had it pressed.
Come on. Breakfast will be ready here in no time.
Why, you sweet thing, where'd you get it pressed?
Say, listen, Brad, I'm going to count 10. If you're not out of that bed by then, I'm coming over there and drag you out myself. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Why, what is
5,
it you
6,
want?
7,
I'm
8,
out,
9,
I'm out.
Well, find the shower thing just behind the second trolley car.
Outside?
Certainly outside. All the best homes have them outside.
Oh, yeah. Can't go out like this.
Like what?
Like this way, I have no room.
Here. Meet mine.
Oh, thanks.
Come on, make it
Well,
stand.
wait till you get to my fault, you got the sleeve.
Here. Hold my phone.
There. Where'd you say the showers and things were?
Here. Here's a towel.
Thank you.
You're kind of little, aren't you?
Where's the shower?
You know, your hair's cute like that. You should never comb it.
I'll find it myself. Are the showers in there?
Well, they ain't out here.
Thank you.
No! I don't want to have a little privacy around here. If you want a shower around here, you'll stand in line.
For sure.
Hi, sister. You remember me, Shapley? Say, I'm sorry about last night. Didn't know you was married to that guy. You should have told me right off.
High time you got back.
Oh, I met some very interesting women at the shoppers. We got chatting about this and that. You know how time flies.
Come on, sit down.
1A. 1 donut, black coffee. That's your ration to lunch. Any complaints?
No, no complaint.
Having some cream for your coffee, but I've been buying a whole pint.
Well, you don't have to apologize to me, Mr. Warren. You'll never know how much I appreciate all this.
What makes you so disgustingly cheerful this morning?
Not in spring.
Yeah, I thought maybe Believe You Me told you a couple of his snappy stories.
Oh, no. He apologized for last night. Said he didn't know we were married.
Just shows you how wrong a guy can be. Donut?
Good. You think this whole business is silly, don't you? I mean, running away and everything.
No, makes too good a story.
Yes, you do. You think I'm a fool and a spoiled brat. Perhaps I am, although I don't see how I can be. People who are spoiled are accustomed to having their own way. I never have. On the contrary, I've always been told what to do and how to do it and when and with whom. Would you believe it? This is the first time I've ever been alone with a man.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm not panic-stricken.
You're doing all right.
Thanks. Nurses, governesses, chaperones, even bodyguards. Oh, it's been a lot of fun.
One consolation, you can never get lonesome.
You know, this moment, it's become a sort of game right out with father's detection. I did once. Actually went shopping without a bodyguard. Well, I felt absolutely immoral. But it didn't last long. They caught up with me in a department store. I was so mad, I ran out the back way and jumped into the first car I saw. Guess who was in it?
Santa Claus. Candy.
King Wesley was in it.
Is that how you met him?
Mm-hmm. We rode around all afternoon. Father was frantic. By 6 o'clock, he was having all the rivers dragged.
Say, where'd you learn to dunk? Finishing school?
Oh, now, don't you start telling me I shouldn't dunk.
Of course you shouldn't. You don't know how to do it. Dunking's an art. Don't let it soak so long. A dip and drop in your mouth. You gotta hang that too long and get soft and fall off. It's all a matter of Tommy. I'll write a book about it.
Thanks, Professor.
Just don't tell you. 20 millions and you don't know how to dunk.
I'd change places with a plumber's daughter any day.
How do I know who you are? I've never known you before. You can't go around bound my tenants. I tell you, there's no doubt by that name here. Besides, how do I know you? Show him your credentials, Mac.
Oh, that's Father at work. Peter, what do I do? What do I do? Maybe I can jump out of the window. They won't see me.
Yeah, I got a letter from Aunt Bella last week. She said that we don't stop over in Wilkes-Barre, she'll never forget us.
Talking about...
The baby's due next month. They want us to come. Oh, yeah. She saw your sister on the street the other day. Said she's looking swell.
Come here.
You know, I hope Aunt Bella has a boy, don't you? Grandma says it's going to be a girl, though. And she hasn't missed calling 1 year.
Man here to see you, sweetheart.
Who, me? What's in me?
What's your name?
Are you addressing me?
Yeah, what's your name?
Hey, wait a minute. That's my wife you're talking to. What do you mean, come here? What do you want, anyway?
We're looking for somebody.
Yeah, well, look your head off, but don't come busting in here. This isn't a public park. I got nerves to take a sock at you.
Take it easy, son. Take it easy.
And these men are detectives. I don't care if they're the whole police department. They can't come busting in here shooting questions in my way.
Now, don't get too excited, Peter. The man just asked you civil questions.
Oh, is that so? Say, how many times have I told you to stop butting in when I'm having an argument?
Well, you don't have to lose your temper.
You don't have to lose your temper. That's what you said the other time, too. Every time I tried to protect you. The other night at the Elks dance, when that big Swede made a pass at you.
He didn't make a pass at me. I told you a million times.
Oh, no, I saw him. Kept pawing you all over the dance floor.
He didn't. You were drunk.
Ah, nuts! You're just like your old man. What's a plumber's daughter? Always a plumber's daughter. Then an ounce of brains in your whole family.
Oh, Peter, what you've got going on, I won't see you.
Ah, shut up. See what you've done?
Sorry, Mr. Warren, but you see, we've got to check up on everybody. We're looking for a girl by the name of Ellen Andrews. You know, the daughter of that big Wall Street mob.
Yeah, well, it's too bad you're looking for a plumber's daughter. Quick, Bob! Quick, Bob!
I told you they were all very tough.
You know, you
it's bad jumping in like that. You've got a brain, haven't you?
Oh, well, you're not so bad yourself.
You know, with this time, two people stuck on me. Things get tough, we'll play the small town auditorium. We'll call this with the Great Deception.
Oh, what about Cinderella or a real hot love story?
Oh, no, that's too mushy.
Oh, I like mushy stuff.
Goodbye!
You're doing it in 5 minutes.
What?
Your bus leaves in 5 minutes.
Oh, holy smoke, we're not even catching
I'm beginning to believe that you fellas couldn't find your way home. Now, this is the last session I want.
Yeah. Bring it in.
Here's another wire from Peter Warren.
One, throw it in the wastebasket. Wait a minute. What does it say?
Have I got a story? Stop. It's getting hotter and hotter. Stop. Hope you're the same.
Select.
Yes.
If you accept another one of these, you're fired.
Yes, sir.
And that gives me a good idea for all of you.
I want action, Lovington, action. We can't do the impossible, Mr. Andrews. What I'm asking isn't impossible. My daughter is somewhere between here and Miami. Now, I want her found. I put extra men on all along the way. That's not enough. Send in Clark and Brown. You're sure she isn't with King Wesley? No. He's been playing 24 hours a day since this thing started. He can't even get a phone call that we don't know about. I'm worried, Lovington. After all, something might have happened to her. Brown, I want you to make arrangements for a radio broadcast right away. Coast-to-coast hookup. Offer a reward of $10,000 for any information leading to her whereabouts. Yes. Clark, send the story to all the newspapers. Some of the out-of-town papers may not have a picture of her. Here, wire this to. I want the story to break right away. Yes. Now we'll get some action.
Just don't see enough musical instruments on planes and stuff.
And I tried all I knew how to be, but I never could keep one quarter so well as the man done the flying trapeze. He told the the daring young man on the flying trapeze. His actions are dreadful, so scary to be, and the love he turns my ears away. Hey, I know that second verse there. Yeah. Now it plays with a mist like a cat in the mouth. His eyes will undress every girl in the house. Perhaps you better get tried as a lout, and still people came just the same. Now he smiles from the bar on the people below, and one night he smiled on my love. He blew him a kiss, and he hollered, "Bravo!" as he hung by his nozzle from above. Through the air with a grace of ease, there is a young man on the flying trapeze. You and you are great for the memory of me. My love is stolen away. Mind if I take the third one? I wept and I quivered, I shivered for weeks when she spent her time from the circus streets. The tears were like hailstones that rolled down my cheeks. Alas, alack, in Alaska, I went to this fellow. The villain and I said, "I'll see that you get your dessert." His song to his love, he put up with a sneer. He sneered once again and said, "Whoa!"
Thanks the man for me, Peter. It's the best comfort position I've been in all night.
Oh, she flies through the air with the greatest of ease.
What's the matter with you? Oh, sorry, Albert. Nothing happened to her. How pale she is.
Let me give your mother a chance to snap out. Don't worry. She'll be all right.
There ain't nothing since yesterday.
What happened to your money?
I spent it all on a ticket. We didn't know it was gonna be so much. We shouldn't have come, I guess. But Mom said there was a job waiting for her in New York. And if we didn't go, she might lose it.
She'll be all right when she says something to me. Here, honey. The next time we come to you, buy some fruit. Now, come on.
I shouldn't ought to take this. Mom will get mad.
Just don't tell her anything about it. You don't want to get sick again, do you?
No, but you might need it.
Come on.
I got minutes.
Thanks.
Come on, go back there.
Better phone for some help.
Yeah, you can go phone if you want to. The nearest town is 10 miles from here.
Yeah?
Say, buddy, like take a look at my paper? Traveling like this, you kind of lose track of what's going on in the world. Take that story there, for instance. If I was to see that dame, you know what I'd do?
Now what?
I'd go 50-50 with you.
Why?
Because I don't believe in hogging, you see. A bird that figures that way always ends up behind the 8 ball. That's what I always say.
What's in your mind?
5 G's or I crab the works.
Let's get away from this gang and talk this thing over privately.
I knew she wasn't your wife all the time.
No. Lucky thing by running into you. Just the man I need.
You made no mistake, believe you me.
I can use a smart guy like you.
Say, listen, when you're talking to old man Shapley, you're talking
Like a cat.
Huh?
A cat. Rod. Got any fireworks on you?
Well, no.
That's all right. I got a couple of machine guns in my suitcase. I'll let you have one. May have a little trouble up north to have to shoot out with the cops. But if you come through all right, those 5 G's are as good as in the bag, maybe more. I'll have to talk with the killer, see if he takes care of it.
Killer?
Yeah, the big boy, the boss of the outfit.
You're not kidnapping her, are you?
What else, stupid? You don't think we're after that penny any reward? 10,000 bucks? Chicken feed. Now listen, we're holding that dame for $1 million smackers.
Say, I didn't know it was anything like this. You see, I got...
What's the matter? You getting yellow?
Well, I'm a married man. I got a couple of kids that can't afford to get up.
Pipe down, you mug, before I... What are you trying to do, tell the whole world about it? Now listen, you're into this thing and you're staying here, get me? You know too much.
I won't say anything, I'm so...
How do I know that? I got a notion to plug you. Why should I take a chance with you?
Trust me, mister. Keep a mouth shut.
Yeah? What's your name?
Oscar Shapley.
Where do you live?
Orange, New Jersey.
Got a couple of kids, huh?
Yes, sir, just babies. A little golden-haired girl.
You love them, don't you?
Yes, I do. Oh, you wouldn't. You're not thinking...
You'll keep your trap shut, all right?
Sure.
If you don't...
I'll keep up the trap shut. I will.
You ever hear of Bugs Dooley?
Bugs Dooley? No.
He was a nice guy, just like you. When he made a big mistake one day. Got a little too talkative. You know what happened to his kid?
No.
Well, I can't tell you, but when Bugs heard about it, he blew his brains out.
Oh, gee, that's terrible. Terrible. He had to come to him, though. He talked too much. I never talk. I never say a word. Word about it. Gee, I wouldn't want anything to happen to him.
Okay. Just remember that.
Now beat it.
Sure, mister. Thanks. I always knew you guys were kind of hard.
Come on, scram. And stay away from that bus.
Sure, anything you say, mister. You ain't gonna shoot me in the back, are you?
If you don't beat it,
I'll go.
What's the matter? Why do we have to leave the bus?
come on, don't ask so many questions.
Well, why? Well, Shapley, you shouldn't have frightened him like that.
At the rate he's going, he's probably crossed 2 state lines by this time.
Hey, why did we have to leave the bus?
Well, when Shapley stops running, he's going to start thinking, isn't he? You know, I've been doing a little thinking myself. The next town we come to, you better wire your father.
What's the matter? Are you weakening?
No, I was just thinking of you. When Starvation died, may not agree with you.
Did you give that child all your money?
I didn't give him anything. You were the big-hearted gal. All the money I had was that 10 spot. So I've been thinking you better wire your father.
No, sir. I started out for New York, and I'm going to get there if I have to starve all the way.
Okay. What is this strange power this man Wesley has over you women? Here, take it. Hold on to it. Get up on that log.
Huh?
Get up on the log. Yep. I wish you'd stop being playful.
Oh, so sorry. Sorry. You know, this is the first time in years I've ridden piggyback.
This isn't piggyback.
Of course it is.
You're crazy.
I remember distinctly my father taking me for a piggyback ride.
And they carried you like this, I suppose?
Yes.
Your father didn't know beans about piggyback, right?
My uncle, mother's brother, has 4 children, and I've seen them ride piggyback.
I bet there isn't a good piggyback rider in your whole family. I never knew a rich man yet who could piggyback ride.
You're prejudiced.
You show me a good piggybacker, and I'll show you a real human. Now, you take Abraham Lincoln, for instance. A natural-born piggybacker. Where do you get all of that stuffed shirt family of yours?
My father was a great piggybacker.
Here, hold this a minute.
Ow! Ow! How long does this keep up? My feet are killing me.
Now, this looks like the best spot.
We're not going to sleep out here, are we?
Well, how about you? But I'm going to give a fairly good imitation of it.
Peter,
What?
I'm awfully hungry.
Ah, just your imagination.
No, it isn't. I'm hungry and scared.
You can't be hungry and scared both at the same time.
Well, I am.
If you're scared, it scares the hunger out of you.
And not if you're more hungry than scared.
All right, you win. Let's forget about it.
I can't forget it. I'm still hungry.
Holy smoke. Why did I ever get mixed up with you? If I had any sense, I'd be in New York for this time.
What about your story?
Taking a married woman back to her husband. I turned out to be the prize sucker. All right, come on. Your bed's all ready.
I get my clothes all wrinkled.
Then take them off.
What?
All right, don't take them off. Whatever you please, but shut up about it.
You know, you're becoming awfully disagreeable lately. You just snap my head off every time I open my mouth. If being with me is so distasteful to you, you can leave. You can leave any time you see fit. Nobody's holding you here. I can get along. Peter? Peter! Oh, Peter! 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 Oh, Peter! Oh, I'm so
What's
scared.
wrong with you?
Oh,
I was only going over there. I went to try and find you something to eat.
oh, I know, but
Here, eat your head off.
I don't want it now.
I thought you said you were hungry.
I was, but,
But what?
well, I was so scared of
Holy jumping catfish. You'll drive a guy crazy. Liable to get chilly before morning. Better use this.
What are you thinking about?
By a strange coincidence, I was thinking of you.
Really?
Yeah. I was just wondering what makes dames like you so dizzy.
What did you say we're supposed to be doing?
Hitchhiking.
Oh. Well, you've given me a very good example of the hiking. Where does the hitching come in?
I'm learning yet. No cars out.
Well, if it's just the same to you, I'm going to sit right here and wait till they come. Oh. You got a toothpick?
What's the matter?
A hay in my teeth.
No, I haven't got a toothpick. Here, a penknife. Yeah, hold still.
Oh, be careful.
All right. Where is it?
In the middle.
Middle? Now hold still. Right there. Get it?
Thanks.
Yeah, you should have swallowed that. You're not going to have any breakfast, you know.
You needn't rub it in. What are you eating?
Carrots?
Raw?
Mm-hmm. What?
Oh, no. Why didn't you get me something I could eat?
Oh, that's right. I forgot. The idea of offering a raw carrot to an Andrew. Hey, you don't think I'm going around panhandling for you, do you? You better have one of these. Best thing in the world for a carrot.
I hate the hard things.
I wish you wouldn't talk so much. I would let a car get away.
So suppose nobody stops for us, huh?
They'll stop, all right. It's all a matter of knowing how to hail them.
Oh, you're an expert, I suppose.
Expert. I'm going to write a book about it. Oh, the Hitchhiker's Hail.
There's no end to your accomplishments, isn't there?
You think it's simple, huh?
No.
Well, it is simple. It's all that old thumb, see? Yeah. Now, some people do it like this. Or like this. All wrong. Never get anywhere.
Oh, the poor thing.
Yeah, boy, but that old thumb never fails. You know, it's all a matter of how you do it, though. You know, now, you take number one, for instance. That's a short, jerky movement like this. That shows independence. You don't care whether they stop or not. You got money in your pocket, see?
Clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but number two, that's a little wider movement. Smile goes with this one like this. That means you got a brand new story about the farmer door.
You figured that out all by yourself.
Nah, that's nothing. Yeah, number three, that's it. Yeah, that's the pinnacle one. You know, when you're broke and hungry, everything looks black. It's a long, sweeping movement like this. Gotta fall through, though.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it's no good, though, if you haven't got a long face to go with it.
Here comes the car.
Okay, now watch me. I'm gonna use number one. Keep your eye on that thumb, baby, and see what happens.
I stood up my eye on the thumb.
Something must have gone wrong. Try number two.
Well, when you get to 100, wake me up.
I don't think I'll write that book after all.
Think of all the fun you had, though. You mind if I try?
You? Don't make me laugh.
Oh, you're such a smart Alex. Nobody knows anything but you. I'll stop a car, and I won't use my thumb.
What are you going to do?
The system on my own. Aren't you going to give me a little credit?
What for?
Once and for all, that the limb is mightier than the thumb.
Why didn't you take off all your clothes? You could have stopped 40 cars.
Oh, I'll remember that, but we need 40 cars.
So you just married, huh? That's pretty good. But if I was young, that's the way I'd spend my honeymoon. Hitchhiking. Yeah. Yes, sir. Hitchhiking down the highway of love on a honeymoon. Hitchhiking down, down, down the highway. Down, down. Hey, aren't you afraid you'll burn out a tonsil? Tonsil? Me? No. Me burn a tonsil. My tonsils won't burn as life's corners like... All right, let it turn. How about a bite to eat?
Well, I think that would be
No,
lovely.
thanks. We're not hungry. Oh, I see. Young people in love are never hungry. No. Young people in love are very seldom hungry. People in love are very seldom hungry. What were you going to do? Go and leave that guy for a meal?
Sure I was. No fooling, I'm hungry.
Eat a carrot.
No. I'm going in now.
You do, and I'll break your neck. Come on, let's get out of here. Stretch your legs.
I'm sorry,
Well, that's all right.
Mr. Warren, aren't you afraid you got a cut? What happened?
Oh, just a road thief. Picks people up and runs off with their things. What a racket.
How'd you get the car?
I gave him a black eye for it and had to tie him up to a tree. Gas left in this thing. Gotta start promoting some. Better take the things out of the pocket of that coat. That'll be good for 10 gallons.
My mind, Wesley. I want you to understand that. I don't like you, never have, never will. Now that's clear enough, isn't it?
You made that quite evident by your threats of annulment. Well, it hasn't worried me for a minute. Ellie and I got married because we love each other. And she's proving it. As far as I'm concerned, there's going to be no annulment.
I see. You've got hold of a good thing and you're going to hang on to it, eh? All right, you win. I guess I'll just have to get used to you. I admit I'm licked, but it's only because I'm worried. If I don't find her soon, I'll go crazy.
I might have been able to help if it hadn't been for you. I've been watched so closely,
Yes, I know. Well, you can help now. I've got a room full of reporters in there. Now I want you to make a statement. Say that we've talked things over and come to an understanding, and that if she returns, I won't interfere with your marriage.
Okay.
Well, I hope you and your wife spend a pleasant week with us.
Yeah, so do I. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
All right, Brett.
Any luck?
Yeah. He finally agreed to let us have a cabin.
What about the money?
And I've talked him out of that idea. He thinks we're staying a week. We'll have to think something up before morning.
Well,
Yeah? I'm glad you think so. If you ask me, I think it's foolish. I told you there's no use of our staying here tonight. We can make New York in 3 hours. I thought you were in such a hurry to get back.
well, whoever heard of getting in at 3 o'clock in the morning? Everybody would be asleep.
Okay. Cottage number 6.
There you go, trusting people again. How many times did I tell you?
You look like a nice, upright young fellow, Mo.
Shower scene.
Well, we're on the last lap. Tomorrow morning, you'll be in the arms of your husband.
Yeah. You'll have a great story, won't you?
Yeah. Swell.
Thanks.
Well, you certainly outsmarted your father. I guess you ought to be happy.
Am I going to see you in New York?
No?
Why not?
I don't think it's a policy to run around with married women.
There's no harm in your coming to see us.
Not interested.
Won't I ever see you again?
What do you want to see me for? I've served my purpose. I brought you back to King Wesley, didn't I? That's what you wanted, wasn't it?
Have you ever been in love, Peter?
Me?
Yes. Haven't you ever thought about it at all? It seems to me you could make some girl wonderfully happy.
Sure, I've thought about it. Who hasn't? If I could ever meet the right sort of girl. Yeah, well, where are you going to find her? Somebody that's real, somebody that's alive. They don't come that way anymore. I never thought about it. Well, I leave them in sucker enough to make plans. You know, I saw an island in the Pacific once. Never been able to forget it. That's where I'd like to take her. She'd have to be the sort of a girl who would jump in the surf with me and love it as much as I did. You know, nights when you and the moon and the water all become one, and you feel you're part of something big and marvelous. That's the only place to live. When the stars are so close over your head, you feel you could reach up and stir them around. Yeah, I've been thinking about it. Boy, if I could ever find a girl who was hungry for those things.
Take me with you, Peter. Take me to your island. I want to do all those things you talked about.
You better go back to your bed.
I love you. Nothing else matters. We can run away. Everything will take care of itself. Please, Peter. I can't let you out of my life now. I couldn't live without you.
You better go back to your bed.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Brad. Did you mean that? Would you really go?
Are you okay?
Look, all I'm asking is enough gas to get me to New York. That bag's worth $25.
Yeah, but I got a bag. What?
Okay, I just want to ask, it's 1:15. When does this class end?
3:30.
3:30? Okay, it should end by then, so.
Didn't want the credit. Listen, I'll tell you what I'll do. When I get back here in the morning, I'll buy it back from you and give you a $10 profit. What do you say?
I ain't got a hat.
What?
I ain't got a hat.
You got one now. Come on, fill her up.
Well, Pete, the way you've been all this time, everybody's been asking about you.
Yeah, okay, Tony. Look, give me one drink. Don't anybody disturb me for the next half hour.
Sure, boss.
Hello, Agnes.
Don't go in there. He'll shoot you on
I
sight.
haven't been shot at today.
Get out of here. Get out. Get out.
Now listen, Joe.
Don't Joe me.
All right, Joe. Listen. Now, you know I've always liked you. Anytime I could do you a good turn, anytime I ran across a story I thought was good, I always came running to you with it, didn't I? Well, I got one now. Those wires I sent you were on the level. It's the biggest scoop of the year. I'm giving it to you, Joe.
You mean about the Andrews kid?
That's it. I got it all written up, ready to go. All I want is $1,000.
$1,000? Get out of here
Now,
before...
don't get started, Joe. This is something you gotta do for me. I need $1,000 and I need it quick. I'm in a jail.
What's $1,000 for?
To tear down the walls of Jericho.
What?
Well, never mind. Supposing I was to tell you that Ellen Andrews was going to have her marriage annulled.
Huh?
She's going to marry somebody else.
You're
Would
drunk.
an exclusive story like that be worth $1,000 to you?
Yeah, if it was on the level.
I got it, Joe.
Who's the guy she's gonna marry?
I am, Joe.
You?
Yeah.
Now I know you're drunk.
I'm going home. Don't annoy me
Oh,
anymore.
for heaven's sake, Joe, stop being a editor for a minute. Listen, we've known each other a long time, and you ought to know that I'm serious. This is on the level. I've never run a bus coming from Miami. I've been with her every minute. I'm in love with her, Joe. Now, listen, pal, you gotta get me this money now. Quick, minutes count. She's waiting for me in an auto cab just outside Philadelphia. I'm gonna get right back. You see, she doesn't even know I'm gone. You know, I can't propose to a gal without a cent in the world, can he?
What a story. On her way to join her husband, Ellen Andrews.
That's it, that's it.
Let me see that a minute.
Zeke! I told you couldn't trust him. He's gone.
Oh, no.
Well, that fellow was going to stay here a week, that's who. He skipped and took the car with him, too. We wouldn't know a thing about it alone if I hadn't took that magnesia. Come on, get up. Don't lay there. Let's do something about it.
Well, there ain't nothing we can do if he's gone.
like it, don't it? What's this? Ma! Here's the woman.
Oh. What's the matter? Where's your husband, young lady? Yes, if he is your husband.
Isn't he here?
No, he ain't. The car's gone, too.
Oh,
You got any money?
no.
Then you'll have to get.
Yeah, you will have to get.
Please may I use your phone? I've got to call New York.
You ain't gonna stick me for no phone call. You can right down to the sheriff's office about a quarter mile down the road. They'll fix you up. And listen, next time you better not come back here. I run a respectable place.
Go on, give me a phone call.
Thanks, pal. You saved my life.
Okay, Pete, come on, kid. Good luck.
Thanks. Goodbye, Angus. Oh, you're beautiful. All women are beautiful.
Mike always still the best newspaper man in the business. Get Hank, quick. Oh, boy, what a yarn, what a yarn. Hank, hold up the money edition. Break down the front page. We're going to have a complete new layout. Send in a couple of rewrites, man. And Hank, listen. Don't do a thing. I've got a story that'll make your hair curl. Wait a minute. Yeah. Don't annoy me. I'm busy. Angus, bring Mike in here. Dig up all the pictures on that Andrews kid. And Hank, listen. Get Healy out of bed. I want a cartoon and I want it quick. King Wesley's in it. He's waiting at the church with tears streaming down his face. The bride didn't show up. Old man Andrews there too. He's laughing his head off. You know, everything exaggerated. Yeah, snap into it. Yeah, what is it? Huh? Ellen Andrews? Are you crazy?
No, I'm not crazy. She phoned her father from an auto cab for him to come right out and get her. He's getting a police escort, and Wesley's going along, too. Yeah, she's been traveling by bus. The moment she found out that her father and Wesley made up, she phoned right in.
Okay, grab a car and stay with him. Get Hank again. Angus! Get me a doctor. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. Hank, forget what I just told you. Just having a nightmare, that's all. Angus! You call the police department. Tell them to find Peter Wan. Send out a general alarm. I want that dirty trunk pinched. Dirty what? Yeah, shove everything off the front page. Ellen Andrews just phoned her father. She's going home. The minute she found out the old man withdrew his objections, she gave herself up. Now spread it all over the place. Play it up big. Here's your lead. Love triumphant. Go on, up to it. Okay.
Come on, baby, come on. You gotta get there before she wakes up.
Can't you drive any faster?
Young people in love are never hungry. Come on, baby. Please escort. Come on, baby. They can't make a sucker out of us. Good night, give him room. Come on, give him room.
Now wait till she gets home. Later, boys, later.
Still here with a greatest please, daring young man on the flying trapeze.
Hey, get that thing out of the way! Oh, keep your bitches on. You get out. Hey, you darn fool! Hey!
Hey, Pete, Ellen Andrews is going to marry that Wesley guy again.
Gordon's out back someplace.
Yeah. When he comes in, give him this. Tell him I was just kidding.
You can't get a thing done around
Peter
here.
Warren was just in.
What?
He left us money. Said Penny he was just kidding.
Well, where is he?
There he goes.
Hey, Pete!
Hello, Joe. I'm sorry. It was just a little gag of mine. I thought we'd have some fun with it. Yeah, sure. You had me going for a while, too. Wouldn't have made a bad story, bad. No, great. But that's the way things go. You think you got a great yarn, and then something comes along and messes up the finish. And there you are. Yeah. Where am I?
Okay, I think we have maybe 5 minutes left. Can people stay till 3:30?
You sober up.
Okay.
You know, I was just hanging.
I know.
Thanks.
It's a helicopter.
It's a Forerunner in the helicopter.
They look extremely silly.
Henry?
Oh, hello, Dad.
I knocked several times.
I'm sorry. I must have been daydreaming.
Well, everything's set. Creating quite a furor, too. Great stunt king is going to hold.
Huh?
Yes, landing on the lawn in the Notto Gyro.
Oh, yes. Yes, I heard.
Especially, I think it's silly, too. You look lovely, child. Are you pleased with the gown? Henry?
Hmm? Oh, the gown. Yes, it's nice, isn't it?
What's the matter, child? What's wrong?
Nothing.
You haven't changed your mind about King, have you?
Oh, no.
Because if you have, it isn't too late. You know how I feel about him. Well, you gave me such a scare when I couldn't find you. You know, the old pump isn't what it used to be.
Oh, I'm sorry, Father. I wouldn't hurt you for anything in the world. You know that.
What's the matter, child? Aren't you happy?
I thought so. I knew there was something on your mind. There now.
What's the matter? You haven't fallen in love with someone else, have you? Have you? I haven't seen you cry since you were a baby. This must be serious. Where'd you meet him?
On the road.
Now, don't tell me you've fallen in love with a bus driver. Who is he?
I don't know very much about him. Except that I love him.
Well, if it's as serious as all that, we'll move heaven and earth to...
No, it's no use. He despises me.
Oh, come now.
Yes, he does. He despises everything about me. He says that I'm spoiled and selfish and pampered and thoroughly insincere.
Oh, ridiculous.
He doesn't think so much of you either.
Well,
He blames you for everything that's wrong with me. He says you raised me stupidly.
now that's a fine man to fall in love with.
Oh, he's marvelous.
Well, what are we going to do about it? Where is he?
I don't know.
But I'd like to have talk with him.
Oh, it wouldn't do any good. I practically threw myself at him.
But under the circumstances, don't you think we'd better call this thing off?
No, I'll let you with it.
Oh, but that's silly, seeing the way you feel about him.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't want to stir up any more trouble. I've done it all my life. I've made your life miserable, and mine too. I'm tired, Father. I'm tired of running around in circles. He's right. That's what I've been doing ever since I can remember. I've got to settle down. It doesn't matter how or where or with whom.
You've changed, Ellie.
I can't walk out on King now. It would make us all look so ridiculous. Anyway, what difference does it make? I'll never see Peter again.
Is that his name?
Peter Warren.
Peter Warren.
Why, do you know him?
Oh, I know.
Oh, Father, you haven't heard from him, have you?
Don't be silly.
Oh, please. What's that? Well, I guess that was his only interest in me, wasn't it? The reward.
I'm sorry you read it.
Are you going to see him?
I suppose so.
Certainly. Certainly. Pay him off. Oh, he's entitled to it. He did an excellent job. He kept me thoroughly entertained. It's worth every penny he gets. Oh, thank you, Mary. That's just what I needed. Mr. Wesley's on his way up. Fine. Have him come in.
I'll be going.
Well, if it isn't the bridegroom himself, you're just in time, King.
Hi, Ellie. You happy?
Happy? See, why shouldn't I be happy? Here we are, King. Let's see. Well, it's up to you now. I want our life to be full of excitement. We'll never let up, will we? Never a dull moment. We'll get on a merry-go-round and never get off. Promise you'll never let me get off.
Whatever you say, darling. It's a promise. Hello? Yeah? Who? Oh. Why can't I see you at your office?
I'm leaving for Washington tonight. Now, I may be gone several weeks. I thought perhaps you'd like to get this thing settled.
Yeah, but I don't like the idea of putting it on your jamboree. That's between you and me. Those things give me a stiff pain.
But you don't have to see anybody. You can come directly to my study.
No. Why do I want to... Hey, wait a minute. Maybe I will come over. Yeah. I'd like to get a load of that three-ring circus you're pulling. Yeah, I want to see what love looks like when it's triumphant. I haven't had a good laugh in a week.
Mr. Warren?
Yeah.
Just sit down.
Thanks.
I was surprised to get your note. My daughter hadn't told me anything about you, about your helping her.
That's typical of your daughter. Take those things for granted. Why did you think I loved her all the way from Miami? For the love of it?
She thinks you're entitled to anything you can get.
Oh, she does, eh? Now, isn't that sweet of her? You don't, I suppose.
I don't know. I'll have to see on what you base your claim. I presume you feel justified.
If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. I got it all itemized.
Cash outlay, $8.60. Top coat, $15. Suitcase, $7.50. Hat, $4. 3 shirts, $4.50. Total, $39.60. All the above items have to be sold to buy gasoline.
And I sold some shorts and socks, too. I'm throwing those in.
Yes, I know.
What's the matter? Isn't it cheap enough? A trip like that would cost you $1,000, maybe more.
Now, let me get this straight. You want $39.60 in addition to the $10,000.
What, 10,000?
The reward.
Who said anything about a reward?
I'm afraid I'm a little bit confused. I assume...
Look. All I want is $39.60. If you give me a check for it, I'll get out of this joint. It gives me the jitters.
You're a peculiar chap.
Yeah, we'll go into that some other time.
The average man would go after the reward. All you seem to be.
Listen, did
If
anybody ever
anyone
make a
needs to
sucker out of
leave, you
you?
can go. It
This
should
is
be
a matter of
wrapping up really
principle.
quickly.
Something you probably wouldn't
If
understand.
you want to.
When anybody takes me for a buggy ride, I don't like the idea of having to pay for the privilege.
Would you take him for a buggy ride?
Yeah, with all the trimming. So how about the check? Do I get it?
Certainly.
Thanks.
There you are.
Thank you.
So, do you mind if I ask you a question, frankly? Do you love my daughter?
Any guy that has fallen in love with your daughter ought to have his head in there.
Now, that's an evasion.
She picked herself a perfect running mate, King Wesley, the pill of the century. What she needs is a guy that'll take a suck at her once a day, whether it's coming to her or not. You had half the brains you're supposed to have. You'd have done it yourself long ago.
Do you love her?
A normal human being couldn't live under the same roof with her without going nutty. She's my idea of nothing.
I asked you a simple question. Do you love her?
Yes! But don't hold that against me. I'm a little screwy myself.
Well, here's to the merry-go-round.
Perfect. Now you look natural.
I hope you got your money.
You bet I did.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Same to you.
Stay around and watch the fun. You'll enjoy it immensely.
I would, but I've got a weak stomach.
I just had a long talk with him.
I'm not interested.
Just a minute, Ellie.
I don't want to hear another word about him.
The orders are ready.
Come on, folks. King Wesley's arrived. Come on.
Don't keep introducing.
They're short takeoff and short landing. They don't cover.
Here they come, boys. Turn them over.
You're a sucker to go through with this. That guy Warren is okay. He didn't want the reward. All he asked for was $39.60, what he spent on you. Said it was a matter of principle. You took him for a ride. He loved you, Ellie. He told me so. You don't want to be married to a mug like Wesley. I can buy him off for a pot of gold. And you can make an old man happy. And you won't do so bad for yourself. If you change your mind, your car is waiting at the gate.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together here in the sight of God and in the face of this company to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony. If any man can show just cause why they may not lawfully be joined together, Let him now speak, or else hereafter forever hold his peace. King, wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife, so long as ye both shall live?
I will.
Helen, wilt thou have this man to thy wedded husband, so long as ye both shall live?
And she's not skills and don't really know what you catch her.
And she has experience in those deals. Wow, she's not taking those deals. And the woman comes together.
What happened? I haven't the slightest idea.
Don't want to talk to it. Don't want to talk to anybody. Don't want to see anybody.
There's King Wesley on the phone.
Oh. Hello, my would-be ex-son-in-law. I've sent you a check for 100,000. That's the smartest thing you ever did, Wesley, not to contest that annulment. That's satisfactory, isn't it? Well, it ought to be. Oh, I'm not complaining. Oh, no, not complaining. It was dirt cheap. Don't fall out of any windows.
There's another wire from Peter. They're in Glen Falls, Michigan.
What's holding up the annulment, you slowpoke? The walls of Jericho are toppling. Send him a telegram right away. Just say, let him topple.
Funny couple, ain't they?
Yeah,
If you ask me, I don't believe they're married.
they married all right. I just seen the license.
They made me get 'em a rope and a blanket on a night like this. What do you reckon that's for?
Then I know. I just brought them a trumpet.
A trumpet?
Yeah, one of them toy things they sent me to the store to get it.
Well, what in the world do they want a trumpet for?
Dunno.
Okay, before you leave, and I appreciate you waiting a minute, let me just give you two quick pieces of information. One thing is that scene with Clark Gable taking off his shirt, that killed the undershirt industry for years. Women insisted their men not have undershirts. The other thing is that men all wore hats, you saw on the show, and it's interesting to see how people wore.
Good luck with today's lesson.